All right, strap yourselves in because we're diving deep into what it means to be out of control, but in a good way.
Out of control in a good way.
Exactly. And our guidebook for this adventure is Kevin Kelly's 1994 book, Out of Control. Now, you might be thinking, 1994.
Yeah.
Is that even relevant today?
That's what's so fascinating.
Yeah.
Even back then, Kelly was already so ahead of the curve. He was exploring how the lines between natural and artificial systems are getting all blurry.
It's like the Maid and the Born are starting to, like
Yeah.
merge together,
Totally. And Kelly really nails this with his idea of vivisystems. It's kind of the foundation of the whole book.
So vivisystems, kind of break that down for me.
Okay, think of it this way. Vivisystems are any systems that have these lifelike qualities. Doesn't matter if they're organic or artificial.
So, like, give me some examples. What are we talking about here?
Ant colonies,
Okay.
robot prototypes,
Hmm.
even something like the global telephone network. It's all about recognizing that these systems are part of this bigger interconnected web.
So it's not just about, like, robots becoming more human.
Right.
It's about seeing everything as part of this interconnected, lifelike web.
Exactly.
And one of the coolest examples of this is something Kelly calls swarm intelligence.
Ah, yes, swarm intelligence. It's all about the power of decentralized control, that bottom-up approach.
Mm.
We see it all the time in nature.
Yeah.
Beehives, flocks of birds. They work together without a single leader calling the shots.
So how does this swarm intelligence thing actually play out in the real world? Like, give me a concrete example.
Kelly talks about this group called Survival Research Labs, or SRL.
Okay.
They create these insane performances.
Okay.
Basically entertainment for machines.
Double pow.
You've got robots smashing into each other, sparks flying everywhere.
That sounds awesome and terrifying at the same time.
Right. It's like letting machines express themselves, even if it gets a little chaotic.
But how does this connect back to out of control being a good thing?
It shows that decentralized systems can be tougher, more adaptable, and even more creative than those top-down controlled ones.
Okay.
Kelly tells this story about two robots, Ambler and Genghis.
Mm.
Ambler tried to map out its whole environment before making a move. It was slow and clunky.
Okay.
But Genghis used distributed control, kind of like a cockroach.
Okay.
It adapted its walking based on what each of its legs was doing.
So it's almost like Ambler was overthinking it,
Totally.
while Genghis just went with the flow and was more effective because of it.
Exactly. And this idea of distributed intelligence isn't just for robots either.
Mm.
Kelly talks about the society of mind. Intelligence can come from lots of smaller parts working together.
So it's not about building one super smart robot.
Right.
It's more like a network of,
Yeah.
simpler agents all working together.
That's the idea. And this connects with the work of Rodney Brooks,
Okay.
a roboticist who says that intelligence doesn't need these complex internal models of the world. It can just emerge from simple interactions with the environment.
So you don't need to know everything to be smart. You just need to be able to respond to what's happening around you.
Precisely. That leads to Brooks's idea of ubiquitous computing,
Like,
where computing is seamlessly woven into our environment.
paint me a picture. What does that look like?
Smart doors that recognize you,
Hmm.
responsive street lights, information displays that are personalized just for you everywhere you look.
That sounds super convenient, but also a little, I don't know, a little creepy too.
Yeah.
If computing is everywhere, doesn't that raise some serious privacy red flags?
Absolutely. As technology gets more intertwined with our lives, we've got to think about those trade-offs. Convenience versus privacy, efficiency versus autonomy.
It's playing out already with smartphones and social media.
Right.
People love the convenience, but they're getting worried about how their data is being used.
Exactly. That's why it's so important to have these conversations now before ubiquitous computing takes over even more. We need to think about what kind of world we want and design our tech to match.
It seems like Kelly is making a case for the power of interconnectedness and decentralized control. From ant colonies and robots to the whole internet.
Right.
But what about the bigger picture? How do these ideas apply to, the entire planet?
Now that's where it gets really interesting. Kelly links these ideas to James Lovelock's Gaia hypothesis,
The Gaia hypothesis.
which basically says that Earth itself is this self-regulating system.
So the Earth is like one giant
Yeah,
vivisystem.
exactly. Life is playing this crucial role in keeping the planet stable. And Kelly uses the Biosphere 2 project to illustrate this point.
Biosphere 2.
Yeah.
Wasn't that didn't that go a bit sideways?
Well, it faced a ton of challenges. Oxygen levels plummeting, unexpected extinctions. It showed just how complex ecological systems are and how tough it is to control them.
So what's the takeaway? Are we supposed to just throw our hands up and let nature run wild?
Not exactly, but we have to recognize that we're deeply connected to the natural world. We can't control it like a machine, but we can work with its self-regulating powers to make sure we survive.
It seems like a big theme in Kelly's book is that
Mhm.
the more we learn about these complex systems,
Yeah.
the more we realize how much we don't know
Yeah.
and how much control we have to kind of surrender.
Right.
But it's not about giving up entirely, right?
Yeah.
It's about finding a new way to interact with the world,
Huh.
one that's more collaborative and adaptable.
Exactly. By looking at how systems get out of control,
Mm.
we can figure out how to create systems that are stronger, more adaptable, and more creative. It's kind of a paradox, but a powerful one.
My mind is already bending a
Oh,
little bit,
yeah.
and we're just scratching the surface.
I know, right? And there's so much more to uncover. In the next part of our deep dive, we're going to get into how evolution itself is evolving
Okay.
and how simulations and artificial life are really pushing the limits of what we thought was possible.
I need a minute to process all of this. But stay tuned, folks, because it's about to get even wilder.
Back again. Ready for more?
Definitely. Last time we talked about everything from ant colonies and robots to the Gaia hypothesis.
Yeah.
So how does evolution fit into all of this?
Well, Kelly dives into this idea of post-Darwinism. And before you freak out, it's not about ditching Darwin altogether.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
more like saying, hey, there might be more to the story of evolution than we thought.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Yeah.
What else is Kelly saying?
Well, he throws out these mind-blowing examples like symbiosis,
Symbiosis.
where you've got different organisms merging and sharing capabilities, almost like a biological merger.
So instead of competing, they're teaming up, combining their strengths.
Exactly. It's like evolution on fast forward, and then there's directed mutation.
Directed mutation.
Have you ever heard of that?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Isn't mutation supposed to be random?
That's what we used to think. But Kelly brings up this evidence suggesting that organisms might actually mutate in specific ways, almost like they're responding to environmental pressures.
So it's not just random chance driving evolution. There's some intentionality there.
That's what some researchers are thinking. It really challenges our assumptions about how evolution works.
It really does. What other crazy ideas does Kelly bring up?
He also points out how an organism's body and behavior can actually influence its evolution. It's not all about the genes.
So it's like a feedback loop where an organism's actions can actually shape how it evolves.
You got it. And then there's this idea that evolvability itself can evolve.
Evolvability evolving. So meta.
It is. But hold on. It gets even weirder. Kelly talks about Stuart Kaufman's idea of order for free.
Okay.
Kaufman suggests that self-organization might be like this fundamental law of the universe.
So it's not just random chaos. There are these underlying principles that lead to order and structure.
That's the idea. Kelly brings all of this together to argue that evolution is way more complex and dynamic than we ever imagined.
My head is spinning.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you've got the rise of simulations and artificial life. Simulations, I get. We can use computer models to study things like evolution,
Yeah.
but artificial life, how does that fit in?
Imagine being able to create lifelike systems in a computer or even in a lab. We could actually run experiments on evolution.
So instead of just observing evolution, we could actually play with it.
Exactly. And this opens up some big ethical and philosophical questions.
Such as,
Well, if we can create artificial life, what responsibilities do we have to these creations?
it's like something out of a sci-fi movie, creating artificial life forms. It makes you question what it even means to be alive.
Right. And these aren't just theoretical questions anymore. Scientists are already creating synthetic organisms, evolving software in virtual worlds, building robots that learn and adapt.
It's like the line between natural and artificial is getting blurrier every day.
Exactly. And that's what makes this all so exciting, but also a little scary.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't even predict the weather accurately. How are we supposed to control the evolution of artificial life?
That's a good point. Even our best models have limits.
Mm.
And complex systems like evolution are full of surprises.
They are. We're entering this era where we can create and interact with these incredibly lifelike systems, but we need to be aware of what we're getting into.
It sounds like Kelly's telling us to embrace the unpredictable,
He is.
to see out of control, not as something to fear, but as an opportunity.
Absolutely. It's about shifting our mindset from control to collaboration,
Yeah.
from predictability to emergence. We have to learn to work with complex systems, not against them.
I love that idea. Working with complex systems, not trying to force them into some rigid box.
It's more like dancing with them, you know.
Exactly. Finding that balance between influence and acceptance.
You got it. And Kelly's ideas aren't just theory. In the next part of our deep dive, we'll explore how the principles of out of control are being used in all sorts of fields: business, technology, even ecology.
Okay, I can't wait. This is all so mind-blowing. We've covered so much ground, but I feel like we're just getting started. So we've talked about a lot.
Yeah,
Vivid systems, swarm intelligence, even how evolution is evolving.
it's a lot to take in.
It is. But how are these mind-blowing ideas actually playing out in the real world? Like, where can we see this happening?
That's the cool part. One of the big things Kelly gets at is that this out of control thing, it's happening everywhere. You see it in how businesses are becoming less centralized, more like networks.
So it's not just about robots and AI.
Nope. It's a bigger shift in how we think about these complex systems, like how we design them and manage them.
Okay.
Kelly argues we need to move away from that old command and control style,
Yeah.
embrace something more distributed, more bottom up.
Hmm.
It's about letting people make decisions, letting them adapt, experiment with new ideas.
That sounds pretty different from how a lot of organizations work today.
It is, but Kelly has some pretty convincing examples of how it's already working. He talks about these virtual corporations,
Hmm.
basically companies that are like networks of independent folks all connected through tech.
So instead of a rigid hierarchy, it's more like an ecosystem.
Exactly. And that lets companies be super flexible. They can scale up or down, bring in experts when they need them, react to changes way faster.
It reminds me of open source software.
Ah, perfect example.
Thousands of developers around the world collaborating on amazing software,
Yeah.
like Linux or Firefox.
All without some central authority calling all the shots.
But how do you even manage a company like that? One that's spread out everywhere with no clear boss. Seems like it could get chaotic fast.
It's a challenge for sure. Leaders need different skills. Instead of giving orders, it's about creating a shared vision, building trust, empowering people to take ownership.
So less top-down control, more creating the conditions for things to self-organize.
Exactly. And Kelly thinks this applies not just to businesses, but to ecosystems and even economies.
Ecosystems.
Yeah.
How do you apply out of control to something like an ecosystem?
Well, we can't exactly tell trees what to do,
Right.
but we can create the right conditions for them to thrive. Kelly talks about ecological restoration, repairing damaged ecosystems by bringing back native species, getting rid of invasive ones, letting natural processes do their thing.
So working with nature instead of trying to control it.
Right. And this applies to economies, too. Kelly thinks all that central planning and heavy regulation, it can actually backfire.
So what's the alternative? Just a completely free market? That doesn't seem so great either.
It's about finding a balance. Kelly is all about this evolutionary approach to economics, encouraging experimentation, competition, letting things adapt, create a framework that lets innovation happen but also protects against big risks.
I'm starting to see the bigger picture here. It's about harnessing the power of self-organization.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to force order from the top down.
Yeah.
It's a whole new way of thinking.
It is, and it's becoming more and more important as we face all these big challenges: climate change, tech disruption, political divides. We need systems that can roll with the punches.
It's exciting, but also a little scary.
It is. Kelly's asking us to embrace the unknown, to let go of that illusion of control and trust in these emergent systems.
Well, Kelly's book has definitely given me a new perspective. It's a good reminder that even when things feel chaotic, there's still an underlying order to things.
There is. And we're not just along for the ride. We're actually shaping the future with our choices and actions.
That's a powerful thought. So what kind of future do we want to create?
That's the question we all need to be asking. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a wild ride.
It has. But hopefully it sparks some new ideas for you. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep pushing those boundaries.
That's what we're all about. Thanks for listening.